Yesterday, that is October 7th, 2021, for those of you living in the future, the devs did another Q&A live stream. In the past, these live streams have been quite insightful and interesting to watch. This one was a bit of a drier affair than usual, with most of the questions posed being answered something along the lines of, maybe, but we aren't ready to talk about that yet.
Nothing to announce for when that's coming, so I'm excited to share more details with the folks about it, but that's gonna be not on this stream. I have nothing to talk about yet on that, but soon.
Well, we have nothing really concrete to share beyond that. There's nothing concrete to really share. It's something that we have been thinking about.
The progress I can share is that we are still working on it. It's not a small thing.
When we will actually do that, we don't currently have a date.
So I'm hopeful, but you know.
All right.
Soon TM.
At the very least, and as the community manager quite rightly pointed out, even answers like this give us an indication of what has passed the designers' desks.
I know with a lot of these questions, I feel like it's like, hey, well, soon TM, we'll have more info later, but we don't want to overpromise something and then have to keep delaying it. We have a lot of these things on our mind, I want to say usually, and, the team is very aware of your feedback.
It's also pretty clear that they've substantially changed their view on methods of balance over the last 6 months, and the three of them here really seem to click. It felt nice. So, although I personally wouldn't recommend watching the VOD as it's quite slow and not a huge amount is revealed, there is some stuff that I want to cover, and a little discussion that we ought to have at the end. So, let's start with Boon Totems. I've already made a video on how easily Circle of Healing can be abused to allow for a 0.8 second heal without much effort. They're being nerfed in live, and here's how. Their effects no longer stack. Blessing a Hex Totem now takes 24 seconds. That's a Hex Totem, not a regular Totem, which remains short. I think it's about 6 seconds. And their radius is now 24 meters, which is a 25% reduction in surface area. This seems good to me. More risk-reward gameplay when blessing a Hex and not having them stack prevents them from becoming crazy overpowered if you're lucky enough to have totems spawn close together. They mentioned a few things about the idea behind Boon Totems too. They're meant to be small areas in a map that offer survivors support advantages. They don't contribute to the objective and so won't ever speed up generators, for example. Time spent blessing is time spent away from repairing. This is the reason that they can be used multiple times too, unlike Hex Perks. Hex Perks offer map-wide mechanic changes of immense strength, whereas Boon Totems offer support buffs in small areas. Right, here's some quickfire stuff. No news on Pinhead's voice line, but at least they're acknowledging its absence proper. It's pretty clear now this isn't a glitch with the audio files, but a rights issue or something similar to that, or I think it would have been resolved by now.
So many of you have been asking about the Pinhead voice lines. Unfortunately, we don't have any news for you on this front. If we do have any news, we will share it with you, but there is nothing for us to comment on that front.
Both Legion and Ghostface are on a short list of killers to look at for reworks and balance changes. There are no plans to add any new game modes, sadly.
We're not spending any time right now thinking about X versus Y game mode changes. So don't expect a 2 versus 8 or 3 versus 100 or anything like that.
Twitch shirts are coming to all original survivors. Here they are. Aren't they beautiful? They're working on a new design for the Prestige system. No news yet, but they're pretty excited about it.
The new design that we're working on, that's a lot more rewarding and fun. You and I were actually talking earlier today about how excited we both are about that design.
We're talking a little often about this.
Yeah, this one we're getting pretty jazzed about. So I'm excited to share more details with you folks about it.
They're changing this as they don't feel like the current Prestige system is particularly fun, and I concur. There are plans to reduce the grind as part of this new Prestige system, and they're aware that the grind is bad and continues to be a problem. The team are looking at ways to use bots outside the tutorial, but there aren't any solid plans just yet. There is potential for link sets to be more mix and match moving forward, but only for non-licensed sets. Here are the kill rates on average for all killers from June to September. Some interesting stuff there. Might want to pause the video and take a look. There was a plan for early game mechanics a while back that they spoke about a few times, the idea being that survivors would perhaps have another objective at the start of the trial or something like that to slow down the game a little bit and make it a bit more fun and dynamic and different each time. Plans for this have been scrapped though, as everything they tried only made the game worse, not better. There are no plans to bring the chat box to console platforms. They didn't say why, it just said no. I don't know why they're not doing that. It seems like they should. I don't know why. Anyway.
Nope.
It's just
Nope.
DVD will be supported on the Steam Deck. There isn't a date yet, and chances are it won't be there at launch. They don't want to say it will be ready at launch. It could be, but it probably won't. It is planned. It is something they want to do. The team are working on face camping to make it less punishing for survivors. They do not, however, want to remove proxy camping, as they see it as a legitimate strategy with positives and negatives and counters and whatnot. And finally, the Switch cross progression system is still ongoing. There isn't really any proper news on this just yet. They aren't yet able to announce cross-progression for other platforms either. Maybe one day. All right, let's get into SBMM, shall we? I've purposefully left this till last. So we found out that your SBMM rank is determined by whether or not you escape or manage to kill survivors. A survivor wins if they escape and loses if they die. A killer wins each time they kill a survivor and loses each time a survivor escapes. So a survivor's rank can move once in a trial and a killer's can move 4 times in a trial. As a survivor, the rate at which you lose is adjusted based on the order in which you die. If you die first, then you lose the most points. If you die last, then you lose the least points. If you escape via the hatch, then you don't win or lose. Your skill rating isn't adjusted. Similarly, this doesn't count as a win or loss for the killer either. It just stays where it is. This is because they determined there to be not much skill play in escaping via the hatch, which makes sense to me. So we're going to get into subjective discussion about this in a second. There's one more fact I want to lay out. Rating isn't capped, but matchmaking is. There is a dynamic upper and dynamic lower that prevents players with crazy high or crazy low MMR, such as me, from having to wait hours to find a game, such as what happened in one of the earlier tests where some streamers were waiting 5 or 6 hours to find a game on their main killer. The number is monitored and altered regularly. People are getting upset about this, but I think that's fine. That's a good solution to the issue of people being too high skill or too low skill. Right. Okay, DVD community, let's chat about this. First up, let me recontextualize the purpose of the SBMM system. A lot of you are viewing it from the wrong perspective. Winning or losing any given game doesn't matter. You aren't rewarded for having high SBMM, nor are you punished for having low SBMM. You do not and will not ever see that number. You shouldn't be upset when it goes down or happy when it goes up. That isn't its purpose. It's not a progression system. Its purpose is to ensure that you're escaping an average of 50% of your games. I am going to use language here from a survivor's perspective because I am a survivor main and that's a bit easier for me, but this applies to both survivors and killers. Of course, for killers, that would be killing 2 out of 4 survivors on most of your games. To this end, I'd like to argue that the escape or death system works perfectly as intended. Your objective as a survivor is to escape, not to run the killer around for half an hour, not to unhook, and not to heal your teammates. These are steps that will help increase your chances of reaching your ultimate goal, which is to escape. If you are immensely well skilled in the game and find yourself running the killer for hours at a time but aren't escaping the majority of your games, then you need to reassess your strategy. And remember, it doesn't matter if you win or lose a single game, but most of your games over 100 or more trials. They're looking at thousands of hours worth of data. Think about the entire time you've played the game. That's how you're being ranked. The system actually therefore allows you to screw around, have off games and silliness without being punished too harshly. A single loss or even 10 losses in a row isn't going to impact you that greatly. And even if it did, it doesn't matter, because whether or not your rating goes up or down shouldn't be an incentive. The grade system is the progression system now, not the invisible number being used to rank you. I came to a conclusion last night. Either every game at high MMR is sweaty or MMR doesn't match you based on skill. This was worded pretty poorly. What I meant was, if you're having challenging games at high MMR and are complaining about that, then acknowledge that the system does rank people based on their ability in game. If the escape, death, win-loss system doesn't rank fairly, then you wouldn't have high-skill players at high MMR. You'd have a mix of high and extremely low skill. Dowsy quote retweeted this, which stressed me the fuck out at first, by the way, fully expecting a brigade of hate, which actually never came, because it turns out that some streamers are able to cultivate communities that are nice and not objectively horrible. In fact, all this led to was a bunch of likes on my original post, and if people disagree with me, they did it in well articulated responses. So I don't, Dowsy, I don't know how you've done that, but your community is lovely, apparently. I genuinely was like, God, why is he quite retweeted? But it was fine. So anyway, Dowsy suggested that my base point is flawed because of the lack of balance in DBD. And you know what? He's right. I'm wrong. I was wrong about this. If there's a non-skill-based strategy overly reliant on perks and items that results in you escaping easily, or vice versa, a strategy killers can employ, such as face camping or running Tombstone every single game, that results in majority kills completely unfairly, then this system and my argument for it falls flat on its face, which it does, because DBD isn't a balanced game. And honestly, do we really want it to be? Much of the fun of DBD comes from the variability found within each trial. When you load into a game, you never know if it's going to be a tense, chess-like battle of wits, an explosive action romp with multiple chases and stealth segments, or if you're just gonna mess around and joke about 15 minutes. Can we all acknowledge that for a minute, by the way? DBD flawlessly achieves the same kind of question you have entering a trial as entering the cinema to see a horror flick. Will it be terrible? Will it be amazing? Either way, it'll be fun, so who cares? Of course, this leads back to the crux of the issue. The variability and range of skill at rank 1, which, while not difficult, was still reasonably hard to get to, is what DBD is all about. And it already worked just fine. We had clear goals, we had a good idea of how to reach those goals, and as we got better, so did our opponents. There are some gaping flaws in SBMM as both a concept and the way that it's been implemented. Further refinement might lead to the quality result we all really want to see, but for now, people are once again unhappy with how a core system in Dead by Daylight works, and quite rightly so. Even though I'm having fun with it, I know that the majority aren't. I have my reasons why I think it's a good system, and I have my reasons why I think it's a bad system. And the more I see reasonable arguments from people like Dowsy, the more I actually fully understand that point of view. Whoa! That was like a whole video essay in the end. I don't usually do that type of thing, but hey, if you made it to this point of the video, this is a long video for me. I'll thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm full-time doing this stuff, so as of yesterday, I'm now full-time doing Twitch and YouTube. So yeah, streams every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday at 11 a.m. Cool. Cheers, and that. I'll see you in the next one. Right, goodbye.